Hey, 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 we're back, we're black, we're brown, dun, 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 dun. Ambition, 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 ambition. Hey, 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 BA fam. Mandy officially had her baby. She is now a mother of uno dos, two beautiful boys. Rio is her first. I think Rio's 4 now. And Remy, the new baby. We love an alliteration queen, Rio and Remy. And mommy and baby and daddy and Rio are all doing really well. Certainly you can catch up with Mandy at Mandy Money on Instagram. Send her some well wishes. She has the cutest picture of the baby. The baby is perfection. But Mandy's doing good. She's taking her break. And so, we wish her well and all this love. But I am here in the stew acting up because, when Mandy's not here, I get to act up. But I'm not alone. I have a special guest in here with me today to keep me partially in line. And her name is Paige. Paige is a real estate broker and a house flipping expert. Paige Turner, to be clear, lends her expertise to Southern California's overwhelmed flippers in HGTV's Fix My Flip. So, she'd be on the TVs and things. Paige made her HGTV debut on Flipper Flop Nashville and appears as a guest judge on the hit series Rock the Block. In addition to being being a licensed real estate broker in uno, dos, tres, 3 states, Paige is a certified personal trainer and co-owner of the Jopa Life, a fitness and clothing brand. She also completed in season 4 of Rock the Block alongside contractor Mitch Glue. So we welcome Paige to the stew.
Thank you, Tiffany. So take you a breather from all that. Thank you so much.
We love an impressive queen. We love our extra hyphenated, impressive queen. So question, so fitness and real estate, those are 2 totally different things. So what came first? What was your first foray?
Well, first was real estate. I've been a licensed real estate broker just about 20 years. So that's been my girl, my right-hand woman. And then I realized I have to stay fit to stay in this business. So that came afterwards.
So 20 years. So that means you started when you were 5, because if you guys could take a look on YouTube, Paige looks 25. So, okay, 20 years.
20 years. I just hit the half century marks, Tiffany. So wow. I'm still coming to, I'm in disbelief that I'm 50. So am
I, sis, because I'm like 50 where? What? Like
you're 50?
No. I'm 43, but you don't look a day over like 25, 30, for real. I'm like.
And you look nowhere near 43.
Because the skin is skinning. Okay. I'm like. So let's talk about real estate, right? So 20 years ago, how did you enter into the real estate game? Like, how did that even start for you?
Well, my kids are super adults, but I was a single mom, 3 kids under the age of 3. 2 of them were twins, 3 girls at that. So you already know, Miss, Budgetista, my money was out the window for a long time. And I just had to find a way. I opted out of college, could have gone. I decided not to. And then I had a great job with Magic Johnson, but then I had 3 children in Los Angeles. And I was like, I'm afraid I'm going to be struggling for the rest of my life. And I just had to find another way outside of the hourly, or even, salaried position, to raise my girls with everything I wanted to provide for them. And real estate became an option. Didn't know anybody who owned a house besides Magic Johnson in Los Angeles because they're so expensive. And this is 30 years ago. They were still expensive. Mm-hmm. And so I found real estate. Somebody just said, you'd be a great realtor. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but, because I've been renting my whole life. So let me go check it out. And I did.
Okay. So you started off as a realtor.
Yes.
Do you remember your very first sale and like what you made? Like what, was it a rental property that you rented out? Was it a house? What did that look like?
His name was Henry. I forgot his last name, but it was a trailer in a trailer park community. I didn't even realize the land didn't come with the trailer. I said, that's the biggest house I've ever seen in my life. I'm just renting the box and I don't own the land, but I have to buy the box. Anyway, a whole other segment, right? But that was my first sale. And I think it was around $20,000. And so that 3%, about, $600.
Wow. But did it make you say like, wait, I could do this? Like how long into like you starting to become a realtor did you make that sale?
It was probably in the first 6 months. And then after that, I had my feet wet and I just moved to Nashville. I only knew 3 people, maybe 5 people at that time. And I went to a great church. And so after that hump, my first year and a half in real estate, I bought a house the next year. Everything just like has been going since then. Doesn't mean there weren't any valleys in all my peaks because real estate is in peaks and valleys, as you know. But that was my first launch. And then that's when I realized that when you run your real estate business as a business, then you learn all facets of real estate. So I can sell a $10,000 piece of land to a $20,000 trailer to a $5 million house. I learned the business of real estate.
Okay. I love that. Because I was going to say, I know a lot of my friends who are like realtors, but like it's only on the side. And so it's, and it's difficult to be a full-time on 2 different, totally different professions. So, no, I could see that like if you make realty your business, like selling a real estate your business, how you can expedite the process of the learning curve.
Yeah.
So do you remember your biggest sale where you were like, oh my goodness, this is the biggest, most expensive thing?
Well, the most expensive, I live in Los Angeles now. So, but in Nashville at the time, my biggest sale, because I've been back home in LA for 4 years. So my biggest sale in Nashville at the time, as my career was growing, was about $2.5 million.
Okay.
And that's, well, not really anymore, but at that time it was really big in Nashville. Everything's expensive now, so, but that was huge for me coming up. And, out here, I hit should I tell you? I guess I
Girl,
can't.
spill the tea.
It's not big. It's not even that big yet, but I've done a $5 million transaction.
Okay.
So, I'm there. That's the tip of the iceberg in LA though.
Yeah.
Now that I'm back home and I'm licensed and my show is going, I'm like, okay, now it's time to really get my feet wet.
No, I love that. So if what are some of the, because right now we are in a very weird market. I love your take, like the market that we're in now. I feel like, people are wanting to buy a home. They're like, should I wait? Should I buy now? Should I wait for the interest rate to drop? Should I just refinance? You know what I mean? Like, so what's your take on this current housing market? Is it a buyer's market? Is it seller's market? Is it neither? So what's your take on this current market?
Oh, it's neither. It's right in between. You know what it is? It's selling real estate. So I tell people, I'll answer one of your questions first.
Okay.
Should I buy a house now or not? This is my take on that. If you're in a position to buy a home, and if it makes more sense to own than to rent at this time in your life, then buy the house. Just don't buy the house thinking in 6 months you're going to make a $400,000, profit off of it, because that's not there anymore. Buy the home to live in it, to love it, to do whatever you need to do, if anything, as far as, any renovations are, but buy the home for the long term. That's 5 to 10 years. That's what it used to be. Not this, you just pull up in a house and then in 6 months it's worth, $300,000 more. That was, it was realistic, but also unrealistic way to build wealth in real estate because it never happened before. But that was due to historically low interest rates. But then that also caused the values to go up to a historic high. So the 2 and 3% are probably long gone. 6%, 6.5%, even 7%. It's not the end of the world. When I bought my house, we were at 8.5% interest rates back in the early 2000s. You go back 10 years before that, they were in the double digits. And it was normal. If you're ready to buy, you buy.
Okay. So it's neither a seller's market or a buyer's market. It's just basically kind of like a free-for-all. And so if you're ready to buy.
Because there's some bubbles still. Florida, I would think people were running from Florida, but that bubble is still growing. Ohio. These are growing bubbles still in a seller's market. So it just really depends on where you are. But for the most part, I think we're at this even balance where properties are staying longer on the market longer than 24 hours. It's like, 30, 60, 90 days on market. That used to be normal. And then at the same token, buyers aren't rushing out to buy, but sellers aren't rushing to sell. So we're doing this right now.
Because I live in New Jersey. And so I have seen like homes go for for a long time, homes have been going for 50 to like 100,000 over asking. And now it's still a little crazy in Jersey. So it is one of the markets where there's still quite this bubble where things are not staying on the market. Like, it's not like what it was during the pandemic when it was super crazy. They weren't even hitting the market. Things were just being bought off market.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of new realtors who, have had their license maybe under 5 years, they don't even know what DOM, days on market, means. That means your house is on the market for an average of 30, 60, 90 days, not before it hits or 24 hours after it hits the market. They don't know, and I feel kind of bad for some realtors who are newer in this business because, with all due respect, realtors do a lot of work, but houses were selling themselves for a long time. And now we have to get back to marketing, get back to promoting a property, doing open houses. And it's the real business of real estate.
I love that. So I would love for you to give some advice to like two sides, right? So people are selling their property, whether now or whenever. What are the biggest mistakes that you see sellers make and the reason why their houses don't sell? Like, what are those mistakes? And I'd love to know what are some of the biggest mistakes that buyers are making when they're looking to purchase and what they can do to fix it. So let's start with sellers first. Someone comes to you and says, hey, Paige, I want to sell my house. I think it's worth $1 bajillion or whatever it is. Like, what are your things where you're like, Lord, we're going to have to course correct before we put this on the market? Like, what are mistakes are sellers making?
Tiffany, you put that perfectly. The biggest, the first mistake, which is the biggest, is an unrealistic profit margin of where the market is and thinking their home is worth more than it is, and going to Zillow or, another, I'll just say, I won't pinpoint Zillow. I'll just say a .com who doesn't have accurate updates immediately as your licensed real estate professional will. From doing a hands-on comp. You've heard this saying, I lie, you lie, numbers don't lie. Yes. So you have to course correct. You have to sit down and do a real listing presentation and show the numbers of the last, I don't even go 6 months back anymore for a comp. I'm doing the last 30 to 60 days because the market has changed that much. If you give me a comp from 6 months ago, I was like, that's a completely different market. January was a different market. March was a different market. We're in second quarter now. So what was going on at the end of first quarter? That's when I'm showing clients. So first, an unrealistic expectation of where the market is and being able to console them that your house is not worth what it was then. And this is why. So
can we get clear? Can you say, Paige, what's a comp? Just so people know it before you move on.
So a comp, or you might have heard CMA, a comparative market analysis. So a comp is when a real estate professional will pull the most recently sold properties within the immediate community, like within a mile and a half search of properties that have closed. Now, I also comp active and pending properties because that gives us an idea of where sellers / agents are listing a property and like what the marketing is in that neighborhood when they're active. But just because you list a property for sale does not mean it closes at that price.
Yes.
So what's most important that an appraiser is going to run and look at as well is to see what has closed within those last 60 days, let's say, not comparing apples to oranges, a property that's a comp that's most like your subject property, the listing that you're going after.
Okay. So like bedrooms to bedrooms, bathrooms to bathroom square footage.
Stories to stories. So you don't want to, you can't comp apples to oranges. So you can't comp a 2-story house that has 5,000 square feet to a 1-story house that has 1,500 square feet. It's not a fair analysis to provide to a seller. So you want to be as close to possible as you can to show that seller what's going on in their neighborhood with homes just about like theirs.
So one, you said sellers make the mistake of thinking their property is worth too much. What's another mistake that sellers might be making?
Another mistake is relying on the .coms instead of their real estate professional and not looking at a printed comparable market analysis of what's going on in their immediate market and then digesting it and saying and accepting the truth. Like, okay, here are the numbers. Like, I can't make these up. This is what these homes sold for, most like yours. And this is where you are.
Okay. What about, do you think like sellers, should they be staging, like professionally staging or just personally staging?
Oh, we can go on to number 3, 4, and 5 mistakes they're making. But yes. So properly position. Okay. Accepting that we're in this new market. Number 1. Number 2, properly positioning the property on the market to sell it so that it doesn't sit. At the end of the day, a buyer is going to determine what any house is worth purchasing, what they're willing to pay for it. Right. So that's number 2. Number 3, how they're presenting their property. Okay. So that does go with staging. Now, if they have a beautiful home already and we can just move some knickknacks around, declutter, do those basic things, maybe lighten up some paint, change a few light fixtures, not going overboard all the time is necessary. But sometimes you need a full-on staging company. And especially let's say the house is vacant. I have a client right now. I'm sorry, I just had a flashback. I was about to roll my eyes and say some things, but just in case she watches this, I brought in, not only did I have to send her, and I have a television show on it. And sometimes people just get so, they put on their blinders and they just get so stubborn that they just won't accept any other way. And staging is a huge way to add a buyer value interest wise in your property when listing it. And when it's vacant, especially in a challenging home that might have, just odd angles or an odd layout, you have to spend the money to stage it to get the top dollar as close to as possible that you're shooting for.
Okay. All right. So they don't position their property correctly. What else?
We can go into, sometimes sellers want to over renovate a property before they sell it because they think they're going to get more money. It's not always needed, to do this full renovation because you don't want to outprice yourself from your comp, from your market area. So, again, walking through with a real estate professional will help that as well. So what's that? Number 4 or 5, Tiffany?
Yeah, like 4 or 5. So you mean something like, I remember my realtor told me something to the effect of like, I would, of course you think to yourself, if I spend $100,000 on the kitchen, I'm going to get back 100,000. She's like, it's not 100 to 100, that you might renovate for 100 and get back 60% of that as it results in like the increase of value. So where would you say if a seller was going to put the money toward renovating, is it still bathrooms and kitchens, or are we thinking something else now?
Well, sure, of course, it's bathrooms and kitchens. It's if you can open up a space, if you're in an older home, of course, open that space up. But it shouldn't exceed 15% of your ARV, after repair value of your home. Okay. Now, if we're going to do a full kitchen renovation, add an extra 5% on top of that. So you really shouldn't be in for more than 20% of what the value is going to be when you're done with repairs. And of course, let's just say it is at the top of 20%. Well, let's see now, what do we have to do? Because you don't want to spend it all if you don't have to. You might be able to, bring it back a little bit and just do, odds and ends here and there just to have a better presentation on the market. So of course, kitchens, bathrooms. If you can expand a closet in a primary bedroom, absolutely. Light fixtures, paint. If you have old school vinyl, you might want to consider tile. But if that's not in the budget, then you just have to do what's best for your market area.
And also, too, I wonder if, I just bought a condo. It's beautiful, 100-year-old building. I love historic like my home, I own a house, and it was built like 100 years ago, like 1919. Wow. But I also bought a condo, not too far from my house, and it's beautiful. And it was built like 95 years ago. And I don't know, there's a condo in New York I think it's called the Dakota. And so this was supposed to be like, back in the day, it's in Newark, New Jersey, in the Forest Hill section. This was supposed to be like the answer to the Dakota in Newark. But it's really beautiful. You could tell it was like top tier luxury because my condo is 2,800 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bath. Yeah. Fireplace, a huge picture window to New York City. So this was supposed to be like where the wealthy, so I loved it for that reason. And plus I've lived in Newark for the last, I don't know, like 10, 15 years. And I love living next to the city without living in the city. And so anyway, I bought it. And so I remember the woman who I bought it from, I want to say that she purchased it, I think from the city or like a tax deed or whatever. She purchased it and then she renovated it. I don't know how much she put into it, but to your point, one of the mistakes she made is that she priced it super high. So I saw that she had purchased it for $375. I think, give or take, because I know the guy who did the renovations, it was about $100,000 with materials that she put into it. So you figure $375, $475. She put it on the market for $675. So she's trying to make $200,000 during like pandemic when things were selling. But the issue with condos are HOA fees.
Yep.
And so you think to yourself, even if you could afford the condo itself, the bank is also like, can you also afford, because the HOA fees are not inexpensive. I'm always candid. Mine are nearly $1,300. And so she kept it too long at that price point. Then she dropped it down to $650. But I feel like all of her drop downs were months too late. Yeah. And then she dropped it down to,
you're too late.
Yes. And so then she dropped it down to $575. And then she dropped it down to $540 or $550. And that's when I came along and I tried to offer $470, which she was not happy about. Because I was like, it's cash. But
Yes, girl. Yes, cash.
yes,
First of all, I celebrate you for that. Yes, absolutely.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. People
So
they don't this is what I tell people when we have to do the first price drop because they don't listen to me in the beginning. I
yes,
said, would you pay this much for this house at this amount in this time?
yes.
Easy question. If the answer is absolutely not, then we're priced too high.
Yes. And I think that because she knows like one, like, and there's a train station that's going to be going directly to like, New York. Well, Newark already has a number of train stations, but there's a new station that they're building down the street that's going to go directly to New York. So I think it was all these things. It's like, you can't recreate this building. And I understand all those things, but I'm like, girl, it's still Newark. I love Newark, but it's still Newark. You tried it. And so I got her down to 520 because I was paying, like I said.
Nice.
And so, but I mean, I don't plan on, selling. This is something to add to my trust, and my heirs will have it later. And so I think that was a huge mistake. Plus, it was odd though, because she renovated it so specific to her style. She's a textile, I guess like real, in textile retail, I guess. And so everything was like really bright, bold patterns, and every tile was different. So I also think one of the reasons why people didn't buy is because they didn't see because I had just done a renovation. So I could see a lot of the renovation that was necessary was really just, cosmetic, because she had done the work, thank God, because the place is 100 years old. She had done all the electric and all the plumbing, which that would have deterred me from buying it if I did not know that had been done and up to code, and we got to pull permits, and I was like, great. So I was like, girl, some paint, some tile, I got that. So I was fortunate to purchase it. And then sure enough, another unit in the building just sold for $550 just a month after mine sold. I know they were happy because they got a comp.
Yes, I was just thinking that they had a good comp. Yep.
I know they was like, yes, because they're on the 8th floor and I'm on the 2nd floor, although the building is on a hill. So the 2nd floor is closer to like the 6th or 7th floor in the building. So that's why I have such great views. But so they're on the 8th floor. So they have these 360 views. And so, but we're about the same size. But I just share all that to say, I feel like as a seller, she made all the mistakes that you're mentioning. And maybe she could have gotten the 575 back then, had she dropped the price sooner. But I got this beautiful place that I get to keep. So now that we talked about sellers making mistakes, and maybe that's one too. Do you think this, like, unless you think someplace is going to be your forever home, how specific should people get with like making design choices?
That should be, one of our points. Thank you for bringing that up is, selling when you renovated it so design specific to your taste instead of thinking that, I might sell this in the next 5 years. So let me just renovate it for the market in something classic that will, last. And then I can just decorate it like with my staging in my own taste. If this isn't going to be a forever home. And of course we buy real estate, real estate's an asset. We don't know if we'll have to sell it one day or not. You know what I'm saying? But most people know, like you said, I'm going to buy and hold this. I don't have any intentions of selling it, so I can make it my own for now. But in her case, it being so specific, that's a big detriment when you go to put on the market, especially so high. And it's high when you first list it. And as agents, we're just like, okay, but let me just put in writing that you understand that this is not, the list price I think you should be at, so that you don't get mad at me. Because then they get mad and then I get fired. Then you get to the next agent and they're going to list it where I told you.
That's exactly what happened. She had like 3 different agents and I was just, because I could see kind of like the record and I was just like, I guess she finally got down to the price. Yes.
It's just difficult and not living in reality of where the market is. Your house is worth more than the market is calling for. So I think that it's very important to think about what your long-term goals are when you're renovating so that it's not so owner specific and then it knocks you out. She probably could have gotten more, but when buyers walk in, they're thinking, okay, I love the unit. You're a visionary. So when you're a visionary, it's much different for us. But most buyers aren't. I would say 98% of buyers aren't visionary. So when they walk in and they already have this high price tag, you got them in. So the price tag didn't scare them. So that's good. But what scared them most was, what am I going to have to do inside this apartment?
Yes.
This condo, I should say, that's going to cost me even more than I have to pay with this high price tag. And you have your good agents that are like, well, but you can do this, you can do it at, over time. And then buyers like, no, I want move-in ready at this price point. This is too much. Plus the HOAs. Yeah, girl. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like I said, I think I want to say she bought it like 2019, renovated 2020, and then put it on the market 2021. But it wasn't renovated in a way. I don't know why she put it on the market, because it wasn't renovated in a way that you would think someone. It wasn't a flip. It didn't feel like that. It felt very personal. Like tile from Argentina, and like drapery from here. I mean, it was very specific. So I'm just really, I don't, like I said, I never got the backstory of while she was selling it. But I just remember thinking, this person, whoever renovated this, had not intended to sell it, because it's just so specific. So now let's dip into like, okay, now I'm a buyer, and like, what can I do as a buyer because I feel like, well, she was really difficult, but I feel like as I was a cash buyer, and I just feel like, maybe we could have negotiated differently. Maybe I could have got it for a little less, but what can buyers do to get the best deal? Because one of the things I made the mistake of, and I didn't listen to my agent. So,
What part did you listen to her on? I need to know.
Because I told her, I think the first offer I put in was 450. She was asking for 550, and she was like, girl, this lady is going to be mad at you. I was like, she's not going to be mad. I put this cash. She was like, okay. And she was, and I will say for a couple of months, she did not respond. She was like, girl, go ahead. Because she even with a cash offer, their agent was like, we're not even going to entertain this. And so my agent told me that it was a little on the low side where it might be offensive. And I just was like, it's been on the market for 2 years. I mean, it's a cash offer. I would at least think they would push back, but they didn't. It wasn't until nothing else would go through, that they kind of came back to the table to negotiate. So I know as a buyer that, just as sellers want to go too high, buyers, I know that one of the mistakes is we want to go too low. And so like, what other mistakes do buyers make?
And I'm not so opposed with your offer. I'll tell you why. It's been sitting for 2 years. It's very owner specific. I probably would have done the same thing. Here's the deal. I don't know, if somebody's desperate on the other side of, this transaction or not. So, okay. I don't want to say the worst I can do, but the worst I can do is try, $100,000. I mean, I've gotten deals like that before, Now the other side of that coin is, well, it has been on the market for 2 years and she hasn't dropped it. So she's not that desperate. So now let's manage expectations. Okay. Now, if I was the seller's agent, I'd be like, you can't be mad because we've had the property on the market for 2 years. Of course they're going to lowball you because they don't know if you're desperate or not. Just counter back. This is when people say that, it's business, not personal. All business is personal because money is very personal, know. And I also say, to buyers, all transactions are cash at the end of the day. When a seller closes, they're going to get cash in their bank account. Okay. Now, cash deals also have or should have a little bit more, controlling interest because it is cash. Because guess what? Some loans might not go through. You might get to the closing table and the buyer went out and bought a new car and now their debt to income ratio is upside down. So, cash, I definitely like to massage, and I tell sellers that, like, listen, let's be nice. Let's just counter back. Even if your counter back is back to your full list price, just counter back. Let's take the emotional side out of it. So on the buyer side, that's really going to be house specific. That depends on a lot, but I'm not mad that you did that. I would have done the same thing. Okay. With caution, like your agent told you what was going to happen. It happened. So it's always 50-50. But I think that buyers, mistakes they make are that, they're not prepared. They need to be prepared for reality as well. Depending on what market they're in, because the property's been sitting on the market doesn't mean you can't ask for the stars, but you just have to massage the negotiation. So if I'm going to offer less on a property, then I'm going to have less contingencies, but nowadays buyers are back to where they can ask for closing costs. They can ask for assistance again, so, I can really go in 10 different ways with this, Tiffany, but I will say this with buyers, they need to be prepared for the counters, for their closing costs, talking about, mistakes they make. They're not the HOA fees. They have to consider that as well, because it's not just in condos, it's in some subdivisions as well. And I like HOAs. Some people don't like HOAs, but I'm here for it because it just helps maintain your value and, the condition of your neighborhood and buildings. So, other buyer mistakes would be, again, they have to live in reality as well, with their finances, with how a house is positioned. not offering. I just helped my sister with a house in Philly. I'm not licensed in Philly, but
Okay.
she was so enraged because somebody offered $30,000 off her list price and asked for $8,500 in closing costs. And I said, well, number one, you don't have anything else coming in. You don't have any other offers coming in. You can't be mad at them, you know? And so, but that buyer's agent was a good buyer's agent. She said, let's do it. And guess what? My sister had to sell. So that buyer.
Okay, because you never know, I guess, unless you ask. She wanted me to come at like 470, just to be like, you know, and I was just like, let's see. I mean, I didn't end up getting it, but I ended up getting like, you know, I know that I asked one of my friends who's a real estate investor, and I was like, well, what do you think? And he gave me some good advice. He said, one, Tiffany, like, is this where you're going to be living? And I said, yes, I really love this place. My sister's going to be taking my house, and she's going to be paying the carrying costs because that house is paid off. And so I was like, but I just want to, you know, I don't want to take care of a property like that anymore. Like, and I love that this is all one floor without being, I don't like ranches, you know, but so this is one floor, but in a way that's attractive to me.
Yes,
and it's around the corner. So I'm still right here in the neighborhood with all my friends and my family. So I said, I'm not planning on, you know, selling. I mean, could I potentially, if something comes up, I might purchase something additional. He said, okay. And then two, he was like, is this something where if it were to go, you'd be like, whatever, these are a dime a dozen? Because, you know, some homes, there's certain neighborhoods, these houses come up. And I said, no, this is 100-year-old. And he was like, Tiffany, he's like, I was going to tell you that, but that's your business to say. He was like, 100-year-old property, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bath, fireplace, 2,800 square feet. And he was like, you're right. It's not going to come up again. I mean, unless it's in that building, which, you know, but he was like, the likelihood of this unit, something like this coming up again, it's probably not as likely. So you have to ask yourself that too. So these were some questions that he had me ask because I was feeling salty as well. I was like, oh, so she didn't want to, now you want to come back to the table. But I was like, girl, go ahead and get your house. Stop being sassy. Because I didn't know this, but it had been under contract. And then it fell through because of the HOA fees that they could afford how much the house was worth, but they couldn't afford. The HOA fees made it that you had to be basically qualified for like a house that was like 700,000 versus the 550 because of the HOA fees adding an additional $1,300 to your monthly.
Price them out. Yeah. You just have to remember one more buyer mistake that I see a lot is that buyers, they're just as sassy as you were, right? With counters and everything. And I have to stop a buyer and say, listen, if you love this home as your next 5 to 10, you know, your forever home right now, then why in the world would you let, however much it is come between, you know, it might be 5,000, whatever it is. If I've proven to you that the comp is there, it's a great investment, you love the house. All right, let's take the sass off. And I don't know what happened between you and the seller, but you can't lose this house over, you know, a couple of $1,000s, which is only affecting your note a couple of hundred. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So, and that's what my agent was like. I could tell she was just breathing deep. Like, I know this is so beautiful. It's so perfect. It's in your neighborhood. It's around the corner.
It's what you want, Tiffany.
Yeah, literally. She was, because I even had like some random on my jet. I would love to use of New York City, but like, what is it? And literally walk in and you're like, it looks like a picture window, like the whole wall. And all you see is the New York City skyline. And everyone in that building is like, you should see the 4th of July. You should see New Year's Eve, the fireworks display. And I just was like, so she was like, because in the moment I was just angry, like that it seemed like the buyer. I'm like, but she doesn't know you. The buyer does not know you, Tiffany. Like, this is not a personal. So I was so glad that I was able to work through that and get the home that I really wanted. And I really do love it. Yeah. And I'm renovating now. And it's, you know, literally it's like some paint. She had a lot of wallpaper, which came off in a day. Nice. And so, yeah, the renovations, should be done in the next, I did. And I said that I was like, thank God thank God for Rihanna. Cause she was like, girl, I was like, do I have to spank Tiffany? Like, what is happening? So is there anything else so how about this? We'll end with this. Like, what are some of your predictions based upon, you've been in this industry for 20 years? What are your spidey senses telling you about like what might home ownership and buying and things and selling, what do you see in the next 5 to 10 years? Is there any new trends, something that we should look out for? Like, what are you thinking?
Tiffany, I had to stop making predictions because I was like, some days I'm right, some days I'm wrong. I said, let me just live in today. And we can talk about 30 days ago and maybe 30 days ahead, right? So I tell people, I got my real estate license in 2003, opened my first brokerage in 2006, had it for 15 years. So I moved back home here. So I've been in a I don't want to discount a recession, but a much bigger recession and a housing crash. I was in it for the 2007 one. And what I have learned from there, and then came into the seller's market in 2016, and then who knows what just happened in 2020, with that burst. Well, with interest rates dropping, this is what I've learned, that you have to pay attention to daily interest rates and what's going on in our government, and then follow the successful people in real estate that you admire. So I am an Inman junkie. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tony Robbins says that success leaves clues. You have to follow, whoever even if it's a mentor in your head. I didn't have a mentor in real estate, as I was growing up in real estate. Unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way, because I was working in my business and not on it. You have to look around what's ahead of the curve. You have to keep reading what's going on in finance, in, with our government, in commercial. Commercial is plummeting. Commercial real estate is plummeting, What does that mean for, residential? So you have to take the responsibility of looking in your immediate market as well as around the country of what's going on so that we can predict what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, I'm telling people buy and hold. I mean, in California, New York, New Jersey, we're high no matter what happens in the world, right? So there's still room to flip and do all that fun stuff, which I built my business on. But if you can buy and hold properties right now and still be able to rent them, house hack. I wish I was told to house hack when I first got in real estate instead of just buying my first home, like that debt to income ratio we're talking about. I didn't have anybody to tell me that. I would have been a house hacking fool. You know what I'm saying? I would have never had to pay my mortgage, not one day. So if you can house hack, interest rates are not killing us. In the 6% range, they're still okay, especially if you can get that good deal, and get them to tick down and look at the long term. So then 5 to 10 years, no matter where we are, you own an asset. You have a property, and you will be able to do something with it, even if that means that asset is paying your minimum living requirements. That's still an asset. So look for something you can buy and hold: duplex, triplex, quad, small apartment building, house hack. That's where I am.
So just for clarity, for people might say, what's house hacking? Can you just describe real quick?
So house hacking is basically when you buy more than one property, so a multifamily unit, and those units are paying your entire mortgage and hopefully then some, so that you can pay for not only repairs and your taxes and insurance, but also pay for some of your lifestyle. So, well, there goes my necklace. So that's what house hacking is. You buy one unit and then you rent, or maybe even Airbnb the other 2 to 3, 4 units out, and then those units are paying for your entire mortgage.
Yes.
While you're living.
I love that. Super smart. Hey, BA fam. We're on YouTube. Woohoo! Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And while you're at it, why don't you go over to that little bell icon and just tap that for us. Show the BA fam how much you love us. And that way you'll also get notifications when new videos drop. Also, share the channel with a friend. We're always like, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And thank y'all so much again for all the support.